Hi everyone, I'm Holly from hollygrace.ca and welcome to the potted succulent class. I'm going to be your instructor for this class and I'm super excited for this project. Anything becomes adorable when you have a Cricut. And in this class, I'm going to be showing you how to use vinyl to apply cute little faces to some potted succulents. We're also going to be doing some painting in this class, so you can feel free to get creative and put your own spin on this project. I'm super excited to begin, so let's get started.
So for this project, from your box, you are going to need a standard grip mat, the extra large scraper, some of your weeding tools, so a pair of pliers and the curved edge weeding tool. You are also going to need the 3-pack of succulents, the premium vinyl in black, and the transfer tape. As well, for the painting portion, you are going to need your 3 colors of paint that were provided and your paintbrushes. It's a great idea to have everything open, all packaging, before the beginning of the class, so have your succulent pots out. This will just eliminate fumbling around with packaging. Now, I've pre-measured the succulent pots for the class, and I will explain how big to make our faces when we're actually in the class. But it's handy to have the premium vinyl cut prior to the class. So just use your paper trimmer that was provided and cut a piece of premium vinyl that is at least 2 inches. I always go a little bit bigger just so I'm safe. So I cut my piece about 2.5 to 3 inches. As well, you're going to want to pre-open all your paint packages so that you are not fumbling around with the plastic on top of the paint bottles. So remove all those. It's a good idea to remove the brushes from the plastic packaging as well. And some other things to have handy nearby would be a paint palette and a scrap piece of paper. Okay, so we are going to begin setting up our project in a design space. So I'm just going to go to wherever my applications are stored on my computer and I'm going to open Cricut Design Space. So I'm working on a MacBook Pro. If you're Windows, don't worry, it's not a big deal. Once we're in design space, everything is going to look the same for all of us. I'm just stretching out my screen here so it's a little bit bigger. In the middle here, this is where you will find all your past projects. If you're new to Cricut and you've never made a project before, you won't have anything here. So don't worry if you don't have these here. These are actually my personal projects that I've made in the past. But we're going to go over here on the left in the middle where it says new project, and we're going to select that. Then it's going to open the Cricut Design Space canvas, and we have all this space here to create our project. Over here on the left hand side menu, we're actually going to go down to images, and we're going to select images, and then this is going to open a library of images provided by Cricut for the Cricut Access program, and then there's also images that you can actually buy if you wish. So there's licensed images, all kinds of stuff. Everything available in the Cricut library will be here. If you have Cricut Access, a lot of images will be available to use all the time. But for the homemade event, Cricut has actually allowed us to use the Kawaii Faces for this project. They've actually given them to us to use. So this should already be set up for you to use. We just have to find the right ones here. So I'm going to search Kawaii Faces. Now, this one here, okay, is one of the images that we're going to use, but we have 3 pots, and I'm going to show you an easy way to find the other available Kawaii Face images. So if you go down here to the bottom right and you select the little info button, the picture will disappear and it'll say smiling Kawaii face, and then it'll give us a barcode number that this actual image is. But also we can click down here and we can click view image sets. When we click that, all 28 Kawaii faces are available to us. So we can actually click that and open up all the faces, and then we can see from here we can use any one of these faces that we want for our pots. So feel free to use whatever Kawaii faces you want. I'm actually going to go with the first 3 here. I actually kind of like this little 3 cheerful set here. So I'm going to select all 3 of those. But if you'd like to take a minute while I'm talking here and just scroll through and see if there are some different ones that you want to use, please feel free to get creative and use whatever one of these faces you like. All 28 images are available to us for this class. Once I've selected the 3 here, it's important to note that down here we see them as well. So these are the 3 images that are going to be inserted into my project. So say if I select this one by mistake, I have a couple of options here. I can just simply click off of it again, or I can go down here and I can click the red X and then it disappears from being inserted into my project. So we're going to go ahead down here in the bottom right and we're going to select Insert Images. Now these 3 images are going to be put onto my design space here. And I'm just going to move them out off one another so I can see them. So before we want to make our cut, we want to measure our pot to see how big we need to make our faces. So using our Cricut measuring tape here, we can see that we don't want our face design to be any larger than 1 inch in length because we do want to have room to paint onto the pots. Alright, so now that we know the dimensions that we need, we are going to resize our faces here. They're actually a pretty decent size right now. We could probably leave them as is. I might just make them a little bit bigger here. I want this one to be just under 1 inch. So I'm just going to make them just a titch bigger here. Honestly, don't get too hung up on the exact measurements. Just make sure that it is no bigger than 1 inch in height. So again, I'm just going to make them just a titch bigger here so we have a little bit more room to work with. And I'm doing this, I'm making them for beginners, I'm making them bigger just by simply grabbing this double-ended arrow here and just stretching. Something to note, you don't need it for this project, but just something to know about these commands here around the box. If you click this little lock box here, what this does is it unlocks your box, so then you have free control to actually stretch the image. Okay, so you can actually stretch it and you have control over the sizing to actually stretch it both up and down and across. All right. So if I have this lock though, what happens is, and actually I'm just going to go back and hit undo. If I have this locked, when I pull this, it stretches the image but keeps it proportionate to its size. So it doesn't stretch it up and down or across. It just keeps it the exact same look of the image. It just stretches it and makes it bigger. So I'm just going to size that down just a titch. Actually, maybe, sorry, just a little bit bigger. Okay. So once we have our images to the correct size, and then we can go ahead and we can cut it. This is a very simple, easy beginner project for working with the Cricut. Not a lot of design work here to do. So what we're going to do here is we are going to make sure up in the top right that we have the right machine selected. So I'm going to be using my Maker 3. So I have my experience optimized for my Cricut Maker 3. So once we have everything all set and ready to go and we're ready to cut, all we have to do is select Make It. Now since I'm using the Maker 3, this box pops up for me. If you're not using a Maker 3, it'll just go straight to the cut screen. Because Maker 3 has smart material option available, this pops up. So I'm just going to select on a mat since we're using the Cricut vinyl. Alright, so now we notice that 2 faces are on one mat and 1 face is on the other. So this is because this is going to cut out in a lighter gray material. So there's a couple ways we can fix this. Because we're cutting out our smart vinyl faces all in the same black vinyl, we can either click here, these 3 dots, we can select Move Object, and we can move it to this mat and hit Confirm. So then it goes to that mat. Now all 3 are going to cut out on the same mat. Or if we want to actually go back and change the project so that it doesn't do this again. If we ever want to make this project again, just hit cancel. And what we can do is we can actually select the face that was cutting on the other mat and just select it so that the material color is the same as the other two. So we do that by going up here in the top left to this little black box, and we can change the color. See how we've changed the color here, and now all the material colors for this project are the same. So now they're all going to cut out on the same mat. So we can go back to make it again. And they're all on the same mat. I'm just going to space them out just a titch here, just so they're not so close to each other. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut out the faces. So we don't have to change anything here since we're just doing straightforward vinyl. We do not need to mirror it or anything. We just leave that exactly as is, and we just hit continue. So we select our Cricut device here. So I'm using the Maker 3 connected with my USB port. And then on this screen, we are going to select our material. So we are cutting on premium vinyl, the permanent glossy. So that's the one you're going to select there. And then we are going to make sure that our fine point blade has been loaded in clamp B. And then we're going to load our mat. I'm going to remove the protective layer from my standard grip mat, and I'm going to place my vinyl with the black shiny side facing up onto my mat. I want to make sure that I smooth out any air bubbles on my mat, so I'm going to be using the extra large scraper just to smooth it out. If you do have any wrinkles like I have at the end here, just lift up the piece of vinyl from the mat and then lay it back down and smooth it out again. You do not want air bubbles because they will catch in the blade and can ruin your design. We're going to slide our mat in along the guidelines and then push the load button. Our mat is going to load, and then once it's done loading, the flashing go button will appear, and we can push that, and then our design will start to cut. So the Cricut Maker here is going to cut out our design. And all we have to do is wait till it's done. So while you're waiting for your design to cut out, you can use this time to prepare any other materials that you need to get ready, reorganize your workspace so you're ready for the next part of the class. The next tool that we're going to need is our transfer tape and our weeding tool. So if you want to get those items ready while this is cutting, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Once our design is done cutting, we can unload our mat. And then when we're removing our vinyl from our standard grip mat, it's very important to remove the mat from the vinyl. So we're going to flip our mat over, and then we are just going to peel away the mat from the vinyl, not the other way around. This just helps protect your design. So we're just going to pull the mat off here nice and gently, and then we are going to take our design here and just check it out and make sure everything has cut properly. As you can see here, when I move it in the light, you can see our little kawaii faces on there. I'm going to use a pair of scissors just to cut around the design and get rid of the excess bulk of vinyl that doesn't have any designs on it. We don't need that. We can set it aside for a future project. Then I'm going to take my weeding tool here, and I'm going to just remove the vinyl starting in the top corner and pulling down. This is a super easy design to weed here. Just one pull and then our design is weeded. This isn't an intricate design or anything like that, so it's really easy to weed. Next, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut out the faces individually before we apply them onto our pots. So I have my 3 faces here, and then I'm going to take the Cricut Transfer Tape and I'm going to open it here, and I'm going to cut out some smaller pieces that fit the size of my faces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the first face here, layer it over top of my transfer tape, and just cut out a piece that is big enough for this face. And then I'm going to continue cutting out perfect little squares for the rest of my faces. I'm a firm believer in not wasting transfer tape, so I want to cut it as close to the design as possible. You don't need a giant piece of transfer tape for doing this. And this is one of the good things about the Homemade Cricut event. Now we have a full roll of transfer tape to use for future projects. So rather than just giving us enough transfer tape for this project, we have a full roll that we can use at a later date. So I have my little faces here, and we're just going to begin with one design at a time, and we're just going to peel away the transfer tape from the backing. Sometimes it's a little hard, especially if you don't have long fingernails, so I just use a little weeding tool to help get it started here. I'm going to pull back just a little bit of it, and then I'm going to line it up over my design, press it down, and then remove the rest of the backing of the transfer tape. Then we're going to take our extra large scraper and we're going to smooth our design onto the transfer tape. So we're going to smooth from the front side, applying pressure, and then we're going to flip the design over and we are going to smooth as well from the back side. So this just helps to get our design stuck to the transfer tape. Then we are going to remove the transfer tape from our design. So we want to peel the backing away from the transfer tape because we want it to stick to the transfer tape, not the backing. Then we're going to take our first succulent pot and we are going to apply our design. So this is super easy. All we have to do is take our design and line it up on our succulent pot where we want it. I want to go as close as I can to the top because remember we want some room at the bottom to apply our paint color. And I'm just going to get it lined up where I want it. And then all I have to do is just press down with my fingers, a little bit of firm pressure over top of the design to get it to stick. And as well as a little extra security, I can go over it with my scraper, just smoothing on the design onto the plastic pot. And then all we have to do is just peel away the transfer tape and our design will be left behind onto our succulent pot. So just make sure you peel nice and close to your design. Don't lift up too high or your design will come back off with it. And that is one little succulent pot done there. So we're just going to repeat this process on the remaining pots. So again, I'm going to take my transfer tape and I'm going to peel away a little bit from the backing. And then I am going to lay just a little bit over top of my design. Get it lined up here, press it down, and then peel away the backing of the transfer tape. Again, we're going to smooth it on with our extra large scraper, making sure that we flip it over and do the back side as well. This just helps give it that extra bit of stick to our transfer tape. And then again, we're going to peel away the transfer tape. If you have any little pieces of vinyl that come back up when you're peeling away the backing of the transfer tape, just smooth them out again with your extra large scraper. And then we're going to place this one on a succulent pot. So I'm just going to hold it here and line it up again. Now it's important not to be in a rush to stick your vinyl design down. Just take your time and make sure you get it nice and straight and where you want it. And then again, smooth it out. You can even use your fingers for this. It sticks pretty well, this permanent vinyl. So just give it a good smooth with your fingers and then peel away the transfer tape. And that's pot number 2 done. So you guys can see how easy this craft is. It's, as far as Cricut projects go, it's very beginner, but it's a lot of fun and super easy project. So we just have our last design here to put on our pot. And we're just going to smooth out the transfer tape again, peel away the backing, and then we are going to apply it to our succulent pot. Now this design here is super easy. It's just 2 eyes and a mouth. So we are going to line it up here on our succulent pot, smooth it out again, and then remove the transfer tape. I just want to make sure I get it perfectly straight there. There we go. And then we are going to remove the transfer tape here. I'm just going to give it one little burnishing with my extra large scraper and remove our transfer tape. So this is the 3 designs placed onto our succulent pots. Now we can get into the fun part of painting them. So this is where I encourage you guys to get really creative. Do whatever you want for this step. You do not have to follow me here in this tutorial. This is just what I'm doing, but you can do whatever designs you want on your pots. I'm using the pink, blue, and green provided. And I'm just getting a little palette here and I'm just putting out all my colors, making sure that I shake the paint very well. Remember that this paint has been shipped to you guys, so you want to give it a good shake before applying your paint to your pots. And then we are going to come in here with the brushes provided that you would have all gotten in your box. Now I'm going to use a piece of scrap paper here. I just don't want to get my workspace covered in paint. But I'm going to begin with the pink color. And all I'm doing, I'm just keeping it nice and simple here. I am just going to paint about halfway up the pot with my pink paint. You could get out painter's tape and wrap it around to make sure you get a really nice straight line. I'm pretty confident that I can paint a nice straight line here, so I'm not going to bother with painter's tape. But if you want to make sure that it's nice and straight, I kind of actually like the uneven border around. It almost has like a little bit of a faded look to it, so it's not perfect straight line. I kind of really like that, so I'm just going with this. But honestly, you guys, get creative, do whatever you want for this step. You don't have to follow my tutorial here at all. I want you guys to make these pots to suit your space and your style. So I'm just going to continue going around, going nice and light strokes on my plastic pot. And the good thing about these pots being plastic is the paint dries on them really fast, so we can just keep working away here. I'm not going to paint the bottom of my pot. I don't feel like I need to because it's going to be sitting on it, so I'm just happy with that, and I think that is super cute. Next, I'm going to come in with this light blue color, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to start painting around the pot, trying to paint as straight and as nice as I can, making sure that I'm doing nice, flat, even brush strokes. And you'll notice that I don't put a lot of paint on my brush. I don't want any globby coats of paint on here, so I'm just doing little bits at a time to make sure I have a nice, smooth, even coat on my pots. You can see I got a little bit of pink in there. I didn't wash my brush in between because I just didn't feel that it was necessary. And actually, I kind of like the small little streaks of pink in between the blue. It'll help tie these two pots together. There we go. This little guy is pretty much done. So for my next color, for the green, I didn't like how the green was just a little bit too neon looking for me. So I did add in my blue, the rest of my blue paint to my green to make it a little bit more pastel hue. I wanted it to be just a little bit more pastel. I didn't like that bright, almost lime green color. So I'm just mixing them here, adding the blue and the green together. And I got a shade that suited my style a little bit better. So this is our last pot here, and I'm just going to finish it up doing the exact same style that I did with the other two, just going around with my brush, nice light even strokes. So even as I'm painting these little pots, they're just so cute, and their smiley faces are looking at me as I'm painting them, and this is probably just the cutest project ever. And when we're done this class and you guys have finished your potted succulents, I encourage you to take pictures of these in your space, and please feel free to tag me on social media by my handle at Holly Grace Blog, Facebook or Instagram. I would love to see the pictures of your guys' pots and how creative you got with this step and what you did. So please make sure you share your pictures with me and tag me. I would love to see them. And here are the 3 potted succulents all finished.
How cute do these little succulent pots look in my craft room studio? And I'm sure that yours turned out wonderful and will look great in your craft room or anywhere in your home that you want to put them. They are sure to brighten anyone's day when they pass by them. Not only do I hope you learn some new tips and tricks from this class, but I hope you will stay creative and keep using your Cricut cutting machine. Again, I'm Holly from hollygrace.ca, and it's been my pleasure to teach you in this class.